utter optimism. It was just like, this is dumb and it'll never happen. So fucking why not? Why not just keep? Yeah, the stakes were so low. The stakes felt so fucking low that it was might as well just keep pursuing this, even though it's going to cost us money and time that maybe sometimes we didn't quite have. But it was like, fuck it, like it's so stupid and ludicrous that it's worth investigating on the off chance.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Hello, hello, hello. Today's guest is raw, honest, and authentic. Mark speaks his truth with ease, which is something I really admire. We cover a lot in this chat, but one thing that really stands out is his ability to collaborate successfully with groups and the amazing insights around that. It's also really awesome to hear how humble and grateful Mark is of his achievements. I've also chatted with both Broden and Zach from Aunty Donna previously, and it's nice to hear their differing insights and philosophies and how they've managed to make it work as a great team. So let's get into it and officially introduce Mark to the podcast. Mark Samuel Bonanno is a writer and performer best known for his general silliness within the comedy troupe Aunty Donna, one of Australia's biggest comedic acts, who have garnered a huge international audience both live, online, and most recently with their smash hit Netflix special, Aunty Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun. He also co-wrote and created the 6-part sitcom Why You Like This for ABC and Netflix in 2021. Mark's work has won and been nominated for numerous awards, including the Helpmann Award for Best Comedy in 2017, Best at the Fest at the Sydney Comedy Festival in 2018, and across the last few years, Best Supporting Actor, Best Ensemble, and Best Comedy Web Series at the Melbourne International Web Festival. Mark's work directing Demi Lardner's 2017 and 2018 stage shows also saw award attention, winning both the Melbourne International Comedy Festival Directors' Choice Award and Pinder Prize in their respective years. On top of directing Woah, Alyssa in 2021, which was nominated for the Golden Gibbo Award, Mark's new show, Aunty Donna's Coffee Cafe, is now out on ABC iView. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, such as collaboration and working as a team, art and fulfillment, Aunty Donna, KFC, taking a break, performing live with food poisoning, failed pilots, plus a lot more. Before we get into this chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I find it adds a new element and dynamic to these chats. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with the video to follow the following day. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's epic episode. I know that Aunty Donna is like famous for never missing a show.
Yeah, we've never missed a show. I didn't know we were famous for it, but it is true.
Well, I heard you talk about it, so therefore it's famous.
Yeah, right.
And I heard that once, I think there were 2 situations that were quite challenging, but one, you had food poisoning and you still went ahead with the show. I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about that and what actually made you go on.
It was fucked up, man. I had a Zinger double stackers or Zinger stackers had just come into play at KFC, and I am a fiend for KFC. I think it's a fast food revelation. I think it's absolutely incredible. And I could go on about why I think KFC is the best for days.
Please
But that's
do.
not
Maybe
what
we'll get a
this.
sponsorship. Who knows?
Well, it is the only fast food company that cooks their main product fresh. It comes fresh. I used to work at KFC. My first job.
Oh, it's actually fresh.
Yeah. So the chicken, the popcorn chicken isn't, but all the chicken, all the fillets, all the wicked wings, come in fresh, and are cooked on premises fresh that day, and that's why I think it just has a step above everything else, because everything else, their main product comes in frozen. And I loved working at KFC. It was fucking sick. I just had a real sense of independence. Just like working in the back as a cook. It was just like, just make sure the thing is full of chicken, and if it's running out, cook some more, and that was it. And it was just awesome. Once we made a mashie the size of our heads because we were bored. But anyway, what was the question? Oh yeah, that's right. KFC, food poisoning.
No, we can continue about KFC. I'm just wondering how old were you? This could be the entire chat.
That was
Just your
my
love
first
of
job.
KFC.
So I think I was like 14 or like 14 and a half or whatever the legal limit is. I got paid $5.50 an hour, but I got 5% off food. So,
That's
it's
not
a
a lot.
pretty good, it's a pretty sweet deal.
5% almost insulting.
It was even as a child that had no understanding of like maths, economics, money. Even then I knew that I was getting fucking ripped off.
Yeah.
It was wild. But I had a zinger stacker, and then we did a show at the Giant Dwarf in Sydney. And it wasn't the first time we'd been to Sydney, but one of the first time. I don't even think maybe we were doing 3 or 4 nights. I'm not even sure if we'd like sold it all out. But it was still like, it was good numbers. It was very exciting. It was kind of just like that next first step into, oh, this is kind of becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And after I had the zinger stacker, we did one show, and I was just like bloated as fuck. Like it just like my stomach was just like hurting the whole show. And I was like, that's weird. And but did the show, got through it relatively easy. And then that night was just up vomiting and sweating really hard for like literally all night. And then I didn't get to sleep. I had to move. My hotel booking was like ending because I was like sleeping in the same room as our manager at the time. Like we had a thing with like I can't remember exactly, but was up all night vomiting, kept her awake. Then the hotel booking ran out. I can't remember why. I think it was probably because we didn't have any money. She was leaving and we were staying on. And then I went to a friend's house where the boys were staying and tried to sleep for a little bit in a very, very hot, dirty room on a mattress with not even a fitted sheet, not even a mattress protector. Couldn't really sleep. Then we had to go and do a meeting with our producer about Fresh Blood, which was a series that we were doing. And I think we made, it was a meeting about the pilot, or we haven't gotten the pilot yet. I don't know, something. We had to do a meeting. I was in another fucking world. Went back to the filthy apartment, the filthy house, tried to sleep, couldn't, and then just, oh fuck me, I don't know, just did the show. Just like,
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was real fucked up. It was real fucked up. But it was just like complete exhaustion, dehydration. It was wild. It was not as bad as once when I did a show. I was single at the time, and I was kind of seeing this girl, and it was after one show. Went back to her house, and she was like, "Oh, do you want to have a little bit of a like a weed brownie?" And I was like, "Oh, sure, but let's, like I've got a show the next day, so but I had the whole day off, so I was like,
Yeah.
I can get a little high, that's fine." And she was like, "Oh," she had this weed oil, like a cooking oil.
Interesting.
And she was like, well, the recipe, she just looked up a normal recipe for a normal like mug brownie, right? Like one that you make in a mug and then you put in a microwave. And she was like, this says it needs 4 tablespoons of canola oil. So let's put 4 tablespoons of the weed oil in it. And I was like, I don't know if that's right. I was like, I'm not sure if that's right. And she was like, no, it'll be fine. And I was like, maybe let's just half it, just to be safe, because I don't want to get too high. I got a show the next day. She's like, all right. So we put half in. Thank God. We only put half in. Had we put in 4, I genuinely think I would have gone to the hospital.
Oh my God, really?
Because we went to another planet. We went to Pluto. It was like fully greened out, could not sleep. Anytime my body fell asleep, it would then like jerk awake. And so anytime like I started to doze off, it would just go boom, and I'd just wake up. And so did not sleep. And then was just couldn't sleep during the day, was just fucked.
Oh my
Went
God.
to the theater, tried to nap in the green room, kind of did a little bit. And this was a big theater. This was like a time when we were like canceling the show was not an option, right? Like it just wasn't.
Yeah.
And I am the kind of person where I'm like, I'll go in the battle, and if it means I faint, if it means something fucked happens, I gotta roll the dice. And I rolled the dice, and I kept telling myself, don't go hard, don't go as hard as you go. You can take it back a little bit easy. It'll be all right. There were multiple times during this show where I'm in the middle of a bit and I was like, I'm going to faint. I'm going to faint right now. It is going to happen.
Wow.
And then it didn't, and I pushed through. And I just can't believe I got through that fucking show, man. I can't. I don't know if I'm proud of myself for having done it.
Your fans are though.
Well, yeah, like, and look, and hey, it was a fucking good show. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
Pulling back and being reserved a little bit, like, wasn't the worst thing. I actually learned a lesson. I was like, I don't need to go that hard. I don't need to fucking push as hard as I do when I perform. I can like take a step back and it's fine. But my goodness.
That's an awesome lesson. We had one example of a lady doing theater, and I think she passed out and smashed her head or fell to the ground and hit her head. And I thought it was part of a bit. And she was down for like 20 seconds. And then they were like, what do we do? Because she's the main character in the theater show. She regained consciousness and understood what happened and kind of used the energy of the crowd. And everyone thought it was part of it. And she just carried on. I don't recommend getting concussed and getting up and performing.
No.
But it's still pretty awesome that you got up and you were willing to do that. I know that there's a few of you and there's a crowd, but when you're that dead twice to still want to go, you know, people talk about Michael Jordan's flu game. You know, we don't talk about Mark's flu performance or whatever it was.
My I don't know what post-high food poisoning KFC fucked performances. No, I don't know. It's just like if trying to think if I was performing on my own, if I would have cancelled any of those shows. Maybe I would have cancelled the Sydney show if I was on my own. But that next one where I was too high, that was really like, this is my fault. That felt like it was my fault. I was like, you fucked up, and you. I really don't know if this is the right message to send to anyone, because I like any normal, sane person who cares about themselves and their health should have been like, I don't know if I can do this, right? Or spoken up and said something. But because I just felt like that one in particular was 100% my fault. The old one, the Sydney one, I did because we were young, we were hungry. I could get through it, and it wasn't so much about letting the audience down. It was more about I didn't want to let everyone else down. Didn't want to let the boys down, right? And that later one shifted a bit more. I still didn't want to let the boys down, but more like I couldn't let fucking 2,000 people down, like who were here, who were in the theater when I was like, I don't know if I can do this. That just didn't feel right. And I don't think that's the right thing to say. I genuinely feel like I'm giving horrible, awful life advice. I don't think I did the right thing. I don't think I did the right thing.
Regardless, I think that the fans and your team at the time would have appreciated it. And I like that you mentioned one of the takeaways out of this, your words, fucked lesson, is that you could kind of like pull back and not go as hard. And I've seen you guys perform a few times over the years, and you guys are the highest energy performance I've ever seen in my life, and it's amazing. Did that kind of change how you process shows or even your comedy?
It was just more of like a little bit. It was just that lesson in. It was a reminder, right? Because I got very similar notes when I was going through acting school from teachers. It was like, you don't have to push. You don't have to go as hard. Like, you just need to trust that you can be small and still be interesting.
Yep.
You know, because that is a hard thing for some performers. You know, not for everyone. Some people are very comfortable being small, and sometimes those people aren't comfortable going big, right? But I guess I always feel like I'm compensating because maybe I'm a little unsure of my own fucking ability or whatever. But it was just that nice reminder of, yeah, it's like, it's okay. It actually works just as well, if not better, if you just pull back just a little bit and then pick your moments where you go big. Because I guess I hadn't, like, you just do stuff for so long, you just do it, and then you just kind of sometimes forget about old lessons that you've already learned.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a nice little reminder. And then yeah.
That's awesome. When I did improv, I would always play the big out there character, and someone kind of gave me similar advice to what you're telling us now, of that you can pull it back and you don't need to be the crazy out there character all the time, and staying maybe the straight man or allowing someone else, giving the gauntlet to someone else actually makes the whole show a lot funnier. And I kind of learned I've got a long way to go, don't get me wrong, but it helps with my collaboration and setting people up. And I know that you guys are like masterful as that, even listening to other podcasts over the years, because I've had Zach and Broden on. You guys set each other up really well. And obviously during your performances and your shows, you do really well. So I'm wondering if that's something that you've had to play with along the way, or you kind of just got it at the start.
Oh no, it's something that you sort of learn. Like when we started, we were 4 performers, and we had a very clear balance in terms of sort of how things worked. It was the way I describe it is in terms of a straight line. On one end, you've got sort of the straight man, and that was Adrian, the guy that left. He was the ultimate straight man.
Nice.
And he was very, he could be very silly, but he delivered everything. His style was just, everything was delivered straight, very like Leslie Nielsen in Naked Gun style. Didn't matter how silly what he was saying was, it was always delivered with like integrity, and he was never laughing at it, right? And then on the other end of the scale, you've got the complete fucking wacko, which is Zach. And he's just like so big, can give like 1,000% and just be so silly and so outrageously big, ultimate goofball. And then sort of one step towards the middle on the straight man side is Broden, who is a straight man but has the silliness in him. And then one step towards the middle on the Zach side is me, who is a goofball but has the kind of straight man in him. Not to say that Zach can't do the straight man or anything like that, but that was sort of just that in terms of like our strengths or where we were comfortable in sitting, that's sort of what the balance was. And then when Adrian was removed from that, it was like, kind of, what is this now? Because we had kind of 2 people who were at their core the straight man. We had 2 people who were the goofballs. How does it work with 2 goofballs? What's the dynamic now between Mark and Zach? Because we'd never really had to figure that out before. So yeah, like I love playing the straight man, and I really love playing. It's actually been really nice we released a sketch very recently, which is from our last live show, that has a little bit in the new ABC show that we released.
The one that's currently out now?
Yeah, Aunty Donna's Coffee Cafe. And it's a sketch called Noughts and Crosses, and it's all a very small sketch, but Broden and Zach are being the silly ones, and I'm sort of being the straight man trying to steer the ship. And there were just like a lot of really lovely comments on YouTube, which were just like, I really like when Mark plays the straight man. Like, he's great as the goofball, but as the straight man. And I know it's just, it's always nice to hear that kind of shit about yourself. And it was just that nice little thing where it's like, sometimes one of those things that I did really enjoy doing, but I didn't know if it really worked, because the straight man doesn't get a lot of the laughs, right?
Yeah.
Purposefully.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoy. Like like you were saying, setting other people up, that's just as fun as being set up yourself. So it was just, I don't know, that was just really nice. It was just like, oh yeah, I've sort of like kind of learnt. I don't think I would have been able to do that very well. I don't think I would have been confident enough in myself early in our performative career, because I was still so like everything had to be kind of like big, and I had to push everything. And just over the years, you get tired and a little more comfortable in yourself, and a little more just like, yeah, well, I'm going to do this. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't,
I like that. Just
whatever.
becoming like true to yourself. And we don't need to get into it, but when Broden spoke about when Adrian, the fourth performer member, number 7 member overall, I believe, how that was a really stressful time because, you'd done everything together and now you kind of had to transform as a team and how you would work together. And what I've noticed over the years is that you guys are, like, when I think of comedians or a group or whatever you want to call yourself, you guys, when I think of like finding your voice, you are the guys that I think of, in that you've obviously have to play around and figure it out. And obviously there might be potential disagreements working with such a large team. When I think of like finding a voice of a performance or of a trio or whatever the 6 is, it's you guys. And I'm just wondering how you've kind of like got there, because you guys have done so much stuff over the years. And then when the Netflix show came out, for example, when I watched it, I'm like, wow, that's an Aunty Donna show. And you'd think like on Netflix, and I know Netflix actually are really good really good with creative notes. You think that they would maybe come in and try and do their own thing or their own spin, but that was an Aunty Donna show. And I'd love to know like your journey of finding your voice, of being able to express yourself and being comfortable where you are now.
Like it all, to be honest, it came pretty quickly, but there's a reason why it came very quickly. Well, it did and it didn't, in the sense that we all went through the same drama school, right? So we all had the same teachers, and we were all introduced to one specific style of theatre from our second year acting teacher, Ross Hall, that we all gravitated to and loved individually. Like, other people in our year levels or classes, liked it for different reasons. But when we did a show with him, we all like separately had all come to like, we love this style of theatre, which was just black box production, minimal, very, very minimal props, only ever using a prop if you absolutely have to and need to do it. No blackouts, and transitions between scenes are all about carrying the energy and keeping the ball in the air. Those were sort of the like core elements to that style of theatre that we all loved. So like, we did 3 years of training in theatre, and then when we came to start the comedy group, it was like, well, that's the kind of theatre that we're going to do, rather than like finding our voice on, in like stand-up nights or doing improv classes or whatever. We found it in a different way. And then we had our friend Tom, who was just at the time writing bangers, like just writing electronic bangers. And we were like, that's a cool thing to put on top of it, because we're about energy. That music's very energetic. That's the kind of music he likes to write. So that's a part of it, and those things, all of those elements, I would say are our style, are the thing that separate us from, other sketch groups or whatever. And it has been there from day one, because the figuring it out all happened before that. If it makes that makes sense.
Because it's interesting. I don't even know where to go with this, because there's so many points. Like with your Netflix show, for example, which is hilarious. I believe that it was almost like 6 years in the making, and that came through. I heard you on another podcast say that the reason that it happened, there are other reasons, is that you had 2 failed pilots and you learned so much from that experience, and that really transformed how you go about your business. And I'd love to know a bit more about, we'll get into the Netflix show in a sec, but just about what those 2 inverted commas failed pilots actually taught you and how you move forward from that.
I guess they taught us that it's interesting, because they were both like, they both failed for very, very different reasons.
Oh, interesting.
The first one sort of because of, I would say, internal network politics.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, like, but also we weren't good enough writers then. Like we just hadn't done enough. We hadn't done enough. We might have found our stage voice and sort of our YouTube voice, but we didn't know how to write television or how to take what we did, or we didn't have the confidence to take what we did and turn it into.
But is that a
television.
big jump for you, given that you've done so much sketch and YouTube, and it is a
yeah, I think
okay.
So. I think it's a completely different form. I think it has its own set of rules, and you need to think. You do need to think beyond the sort of 4 or 5 minutes, the one joke. There needs to be bigger. Then you need to be talking about thematics, and you need to be talking about. Well, that's what we were trying to do anyway, because we were trying to do like a narrative sketch hybrid and give equal weight to both of those elements in the first. This is the Fresh Blood pilot that we did in you probably know what year it was. I don't. I can't remember.
A few years ago.
2014 maybe, or 15. And just what I learned from that, more than like, all right, networks can be a bit rough, or dealing with a network can be a bit rough, and sometimes things don't feel well, like just sometimes things don't feel fair, but that is the industry. The industry is not fair. The industry is all about subjective opinion, and that's fine. And that was a good lesson to learn, was like, all right, we're probably not going to get any not hand-me-outs, but like we're probably not going to get fast-tracked in terms of TV and that kind of thing, which is what we always wanted to do. The dream from day one was to have an ABC sitcom on at 9:00 on Wednesdays, which is crazy to be talking to you now, because that's what we have.
That's so amazing. Good for you.
Yeah, it's like, it's sick. It's literally the one thing that we wanted to do beyond live shows was an ABC sitcom on Wednesday nights. So it's crazy that it sort of happened. But I can't remember what I was saying. But anyway, it was like, yeah, look, but personally, I think what I learned was, I was like, okay, we weren't super great. We hadn't quite figured out as a team, as a creative team, how to come up with a bigger concept that everyone was happy with, that, had creative compromises in it, but led to a product that everyone was still ultimately really, really happy with. Yeah. And the second pilot, which was one that was made for Stan, called Chaperones, that has never seen the light of day, and thank goodness for that.
Because it was such a straight face.
I think it's one of the worst things we've ever done. And that's not to say that there's not good stuff in it.
Yeah.
It was a horrible experience making it, not because of Stan. Stan they were a lovely network to work with. It was more creative stuff, like it was something where we were still in a position where we were so grateful for the opportunity that we didn't, this is just my opinion, but I felt like we didn't have the knowledge or the know-how of how to make the product ours. And because there was just a lot of compromising in terms of what other people wanted the project to be.
Yeah.
And had it just been us, it still might not have been very good, right? Because we were trying to do a narrative, we were trying to do a full sitcom. We wanted to see if we could work in that way. But it would have been us, and like, you can't, as much as that first Fresh Bub pilot I don't think is very good, I think creatively more fondly of that one than I do Chaperones, because no one gave us notes. And I think no one gave us notes because no one gave a shit at the time. So it was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
But this one was like, a lot of people were invested in it being really, really good. And we didn't know how to navigate that and still creatively make it unequivocally ours.
Is that more like having the confidence to say, like, I hear what you're saying, we kind of want to go this way, and like just having a bit more like confidence to say this is what you think the path should be?
Yeah, to be like, oh, look, we know what we're talking about. And to be fair, at the time, I don't think we really did know what we were talking about, which was another reason to why it maybe didn't work. But we also, I don't think, put the right people around us.
Oh.
like there was good, it was all good intentions, but there just were certain, this is the whole creative differences type thing. It's not that anybody else working on the project was bad. In fact, everyone who worked on it was incredibly talented and is very successful and is very, very good in their own right. But I just don't know if it was the right team to make that thing work, to make project work.
Yeah, you said that very, very cleverly. But this is what's also, well, for me, makes you guys so interesting is that, you're a big team and you're going to have inverted commas, creative differences. And in fact, that's a good thing. But then you've also got external people coming in and you guys have been, regardless, you've had to navigate that throughout your entire career and still thrive. Or from the outside, and speaking briefly to Broden, it's that's really hard because whether you're in an office job, corporate job, whatever, you have to work with people and there are always going to be creative differences. And despite all of that, you guys seem to have learned, like, it looks like, please correct me if I'm wrong, if you didn't, inverted commas, fail in those 2 pilots, potentially the Netflix or the current AB show may have not happened or be as good as it is.
I think so. Like, absolutely. It was, it's kind of hard to define exactly what the lessons that were learnt were, other than we had to go through that. We had to make stuff that we weren't super proud of to get to a point where we knew how to make stuff that we were super
trial and error.
Yeah, but then also it's like, then it also comes down to a lot of luck. Like, the people that we worked with at Netflix were phenomenal and got what we did. Like, the only notes we got on the scripts when we did the first read through were episode 2 is not weird enough and this sketch doesn't quite work, and it was just that one sketch.
That's so good.
Which was sick. And then they really helped us through the edit process. And there was only one time where we had a fairly big disagreement creatively, and it went their way, but we were kind of happy for it to go their way because we it just came down to, we like this and Netflix were like, we don't. And so we're like, all right, then we'll just cut it. As much as we do like it, that's fine. And then with ABC, like with Coffee Cafe, an absolute fucking dream. Like,
so great.
Like the notes. It was with Netflix as well, but I would almost argue more so with ABC and the ABC show. I mean, like, fuck, I don't know if this is an experience other people have, but we were just never given a note that we really disagreed with, ever. Like, every note that came through from ABC was just like, it was just interesting and creatively driven and coming from people who understood us and understood the project and was only ever there to be like, to assist it. And it made it better. Like, every note, it was so rare that it was so fucking rare that we got in particular the edit notes. I mean, all the notes, but like the ones I just remember more because it was more recent were the edit notes. Just like, we'd get a page of notes in and suggestions in, and it was just like, yep, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, sick. Like, and like genuinely not in a way to like please anybody or not in a way to like, keep things. It just worked, and I don't think you don't get that all the time from what I've heard, but we've been lucky because we have had that all the time.
I feel, yes, that there might be an element of luck, but I feel like you guys have deserved that luck, and also knowing what you're about and being able to get to that next stage in your career, being this huge show, this ABC show, and even the Netflix show, in that you guys know yourselves. And so because you know yourselves a lot more, and also individually, you've been able to perhaps hear a note a little bit differently than perhaps maybe you did at the start, because you're very confident in yourself. Obviously, giving credit to them where it's due, that they know what they're doing and they're very creative. But the journey of any performer, whether you're in a group or by yourself, I know for me, for example, and we'll get into it in a bit, but I couldn't really receive notes at the start with my screenwriting. And I would react like a baby in my head. I never reacted to anyone else. And then along the way, I've been way better to be able to absorb the feedback, not let it destroy me, and say, you know what, that's actually brilliant. I don't think that will work, but that's great. And that is a very hard process for most creative people. to be able to just kind of like take it at like face value and go good, bad, good. You know what? I'll think with that. So I just think that's really awesome on you for being able to take on, I guess, the feedback on from ABC, for example.
Yeah, yeah. It's you know it's just that thing where I think notes are always given with the best intentions. Like
Yep.
they're never given to try to make something worse. No one's ever giving a note to make something worse. And like that's like something that you can kind of learn that. Um, but it's just for me, what I've realized is if I'm disagreeing with every note that's coming through, sometimes it's not like sometimes it might be ego and like, but I think I have enough self-awareness to know
Nice.
whether it's ego or not. Sometimes it is, but then I'm able to pull myself up on it very quickly. But if I'm disagreeing with every note, it's like, oh, I think I'm just getting notes from the wrong person. I think I'm just getting notes from someone that doesn't quite understand what it is that I'm trying to do, because I fucking love a note. I love a good
that's
note.
great.
I love a note that's like, holy shit, I didn't think of that, or an idea that's like, oh my god, that's exactly what this needs. That's exactly what it's lacking. But if you're not getting those kinds of notes, you're probably just getting notes from the wrong person.
It's really interesting. I had an old writing partner who's a brilliant guy, was still mates, just weren't quite at the same path by the end of it. And when you receive, very amicable, I want to put that out there, but this is many years ago, when it's just interesting in the journey of when you then surround yourself with someone that's more in alignment of where you are, and to see those notes, and it's almost like a higher level of thinking completely outside of the box. And for me, it was so exciting that when I've surrounded myself, and I've had very limited experience, so don't get me wrong, of what a good collaborative environment, whether it's notes or someone just saying this. And I know you've had like mentors like Andy Lee, for example, and people that have come in your circle, and being able to almost raise the quality of you when they've put the ego to the side. Because through my experience, and probably at least 100 people in this podcast, maybe everyone, or 200 people, the ego can really get into it. And that's when the creativity and the personal self can kind of, what's the word? Just go away. Go away in a sense. Like, it comes up. So I think it's really cool that when you talk about knowing yourself and being able to put ego to the side, that's very interesting in itself. And I know that you've spoken about, you've had a bit of help and you've done a bit of therapy over the years, but to still talk about it and put the ego to the side, to me, that's the most exciting thing and the best way. That's the thing that I'd look for when I want to collaborate with people, is that if they're aware of themselves and they're able to put their ego to the side. So is that something that came about like through the therapy or working with people, or the journey of the ego there?
Yeah, like I don't know. It's just it all comes down to self-awareness for me, and I have like well, is what I've been diagnosed with to some degree, is hyper self-awareness.
Interesting.
And so like I know when I'm being a fucking little jerk. I know when I'm just being a fucking cunt.
Yep.
And as you know, sometimes in the moment you can't stop it, but as it's happening, I'm like, this is what you're doing. As soon as you've got this out of your system, you're going to stop and you're going to apologize, because that is exactly what's happening here. Like I'm always very aware of what's going on internally and externally,
Yep.
And that's just always helped me through that kind of process. And just like it's like any sort of creative collaboration is, very similar to a relationship. It's like sometimes you realize you got to navigate whether or not you are this person and you are this way, or are you just this person and are you this way in this environment? And is it better to remove yourself from, or like, and trying different environments and seeing, because that's where like, if you're a prick, doesn't matter who you're working with, then chances are you're probably a prick.
Yeah.
But you can be a prick working with one person and just completely not with somebody else. And it's just like, oh, okay, it's just that situation that can bring out the worst in me, but this situation brings out the best in me,
Yep.
I think having that awareness is really sort of helpful.
Most people don't. And even to just catch yourself in the moment, whether it's an hour, 15 minutes, a day, a month, whatever, you don't hear of it that often. We can blame other people. We can say, oh, it was them. But to have that, self-reflective aspect to yourself that you've obviously worked hard on, I feel like that's a really important way to thrive, not only in the industry, but in life, to be able to kind of see yourself from an outsider point of view.
Yeah, I can't help it. It's just because my brain's a bit fucked.
We'll agree to disagree. Well, actually, on the mental health side, someone actually messaged me, and I think it's through your Patreon, so I haven't heard it. And you've actually spoken a bit about your mental health, and they said how grateful they are that you've been able to talk about it, and it's really helped them. And that's just one person that's messaged me. That's God knows how many other people.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool that they reached out to me because I wrote any questions for you, and they were just talking about your journey and how it's made them made them feel seen and that they're normal. And I think that's really cool that you've spoken about it, especially on your platform. Just wondering, why did you decide to do that?
Probably because I don't think I know how to be any other way. Like I don't mind, like, just, it's not that I don't mind. It's just like I can't not, like, it doesn't feel. I had to like turn down doing this other podcast because the topic that it's about was something that was like, if I go on there, I'm gonna have to be honest, and I'm not in a position where I can be honest publicly about that specifically because it'll just affect so many other people. So I just didn't do the podcast. Because I don't know how to be any other way. I don't know how to like I know how to filter myself.
Yeah.
But if I don't want to, like, I guess, like, lie or like dumb things down. I don't really care about. I don't really have any boundaries when it comes to that sort of thing. I mean, I've got boundaries in other places, but when it just comes to like myself, I don't really have any. I would say I'm a fairly, like, almost extremely non-judgmental person.
Oh.
And so I don't know, like, I kind of, I guess, put that onto myself as well, and it's just kind of like I don't know, it just feels right. It just feels right to me. So, like,
You
talk
sound
about
very
having
authentic.
ADHD and fucking, I don't know, just makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of, I'm always so proud of when people talk about it, not only just with their friends and, in life, but to actually speak about it on such a big platform and then to get a message like that. Like, I felt really inspired just to hear from someone talk about your journey. And I know you've spoken about it on other podcasts, like Philosophy, for example, Will Anderson, who's been on the podcast. It's something that you talked about being like very empathetic. And that's something that I've also had experiences with. And, there's positives and negatives when you're too empathetic. But there's something that you said you're very big on kindness and empathy. And you have this Roald Dahl quote. I don't know if you still use it or if you know what I'm talking about. There was a quote.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, what is the quote and what does it mean to you?
What was it? It's like, just talks about kindness, and like, if you're kind, everything else sort of follows.
Yep.
Which I said a little while ago, and I don't know how I feel about that anymore.
Interesting. Go on. Because we
No, like,
change and we evolve.
I don't know. Like, I like, yeah, like, kindness is key, I guess, but I don't even know. I think I'm in a weird place with that kind of thing. I think. I don't know. I don't know why I have nothing to say about this in particular.
That's fine. And in terms of kindness as well, you've talked about being very kind, but when you say your brain's fucked, your brain's not fucked in the slightest. So we're kind to ourselves. That's, I guess, the most important thing.
Oh God, but like, I don't say that in a negative way. I say that in kind of like I like that about myself. It's more. It's
Cool.
also a thing that, like, I can't. You used to not understand kind of like why my brain was the way it was, but then, going through therapy, gaining a better understanding of myself, there are things that I know that direct causes of fucking the way I was brought up and just the way that my brain receives certain chemicals. And so when I say it's fucked, for me, that's like very comforting.
Cool.
I don't see that as a negative thing at all. I don't mean it as a negative thing.
Oh, nice. I
in
like
any
that
way.
clarification.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And
yeah.
no, I think that's really important, embracing you. And that's just that you are, and you are authentic. You are you, and you're not afraid to be you, which can be very challenging just in life, but also in the creative space. And I think that's why, or one of the main reasons through the outside point of view is that you've been able to succeed is that you, and you're not apologizing for being anyone else.
No, yeah. I don't, like I put a lot of myself into what we do. Like it's not just observational things. It's not just things that I see happen. It's a lot of it's like, this is a fucked thing that happened to me, or this is a fucked thing that I did, or like that's where a lot of my ideas stem from. It's like, here's a horrible thing that happened to me. I reckon it's pretty funny. So you like,
yeah,
yeah,
that's what I do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And a few points that I've written along the way. I'd actually like to go back to the Netflix example that you gave, in that, as a screenwriter, I've had a few opportunities that haven't quite got to the finish line, in terms of I almost had a TV show made, and there's some parallels. With your Netflix show. I think it was 6 years in the making of just getting to know people. And I'd love to know a little bit about the journey there, because a lot of people think you just get a Netflix show, or it just happens to the click of your finger. And it's a really awesome journey to hear that. Obviously we want it as quick as possible, but the process of when you started to getting a Netflix show, and also the ABC show as well.
Yes, it was, when we say 6 years, we mean like 6 years from when we got an email from a guy overseas who'd like seen us on Reddit and was like, I'm a manager in the States.
It's so crazy.
I'd love to try and manage you. And we were like, all right. And then we went over to LA for a week of meetings, and met like fucking heaps of people. Just met so many like production companies. Now that week of meetings, 2 production companies wanted to keep talking to us, one of which fizzled out after about 6 months, one of which we just continued every couple of months to check in on each other back and forth. Every time we were in America, every time we went to Edinburgh, we, tried to make a point of like going to LA to be there, even if it was just to say hello, even if it was just to catch up for a coffee.
Oh.
Sometimes it was that. Sometimes, like, over the course of a year, it was like 2 emails and 1 coffee in person. Like, that's all it was. And then just slowly over that time, developing an idea, or developing the right idea, and then getting it to a point where it was pitchable, and then also being in the States at a specific time because we were touring at that time.
Yeah.
And then walking into Netflix's door with that sort of, that 6 years of back and forth thing, knowing these people got us, knowing these people were on our side. We were all very happy with the idea. And then just at that time, Netflix were happening. They just happened to be looking for sketch shows. And had we gone into their door a month beforehand or a month after, we would not have gotten the show, full stop, because they
insane.
would have been like, we're not looking for sketch. A month earlier or a month later, they would have been like, our slate's full, our sketch slate is full. So like, it was just fucking, that was genuinely luck, and luck in the sense of luck is hard work meets timing.
Yeah.
Because we walked into that meeting, not only was it at the right time, but we were able to go, look at all these sketches we've done on YouTube, look at the fan base that we have, look at the live shows. We just sold out a show in LA like the week before that a lot of people from Netflix have gone and seen. All of that hard work, that 7-8 years of hard work up until that point, and then the 6 years of talking to these producers and getting the idea right, not rushing into it or whatever. All of the hard work came together, and then thankfully the timing was right as well.
It's so, first of all, it's just, I know you're a little bit removed from it, but someone just sees you off Reddit and emails you like, hey, come to my let's have a chat. You don't hear about stories like that. And to me, I know you talked about because he didn't have an email. Oh, sorry, he didn't have a website. You thought, who's this? This could be a creepy person, but he was fully legit, obviously. But it's also really inspiring to hear for those that, if you put your stuff out there, who knows who's going to see it? And that's kind of like half of the business as well.
Yeah.
Not even just everything creatively, or it doesn't even be in the creative space, that if you put something out there, you don't know who's going to receive it. So when I heard that story, I was like, wow, that gave me so much hope in just life that, yeah, I'm just rambling, but I think that's just so epic.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, man. It just seems like a dream now. Like I don't know how or why it happened. I don't know why the sort of like we got picked for that to happen to, but it I don't know. It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
You're very humble. It's very cool, and it's also really interesting that it's 6 years. It could have fizzled out, but you guys, whether it was you or the team, or whatever, you decided we're actually going to maintain this relationship. And it's not a story of like being friends with people just so you can get something out of them. You obviously saw that there could be a mutual benefit, and just having a coffee goes so far.
Yeah, but it also seemed like, well, like, why not? This isn't going to happen. Like, this is fucking insane. We're going to have a show in America. Like, genuinely, the whole time it was just like, why not keep pursuing it? Like, we weren't cynical to the point of, let's not do it. This is stupid. It'll never happen. Let's not do it. It was this nice blend of cynicism, but also utter optimism. It was just like, this is dumb and it'll never happen. So fucking why not? Why not just keep? Yeah. The stakes were so low. The stakes felt so fucking low that it was, might as well just keep pursuing this, even though it's going to cost us money and time that maybe sometimes we didn't quite have. But it was like, fuck it, like, it's so stupid and ludicrous that it's worth investigating on the off chance. And
it's
then
investment in self.
I cannot explain to you how easily that could have gone nowhere. It can't be understated. Genuinely, this is not being humble. I cannot explain to you that it was fucking luck that we got the Netflix show because of when we walked into that door. The amount of hard work and all of that gamble, it could have just as easily, literally a flip of a coin, gone fucking nowhere. And I think we still would have been okay with having done all of that, because it was like, why not? I need to make that very clear.
So you think if you never got the Netflix show, do you think that's changed your life in a sense, or you still would have gone about it the same way you're going?
Yeah, no, it didn't change. I wouldn't say it changed our lives. I would say it helped. I think we maybe thought or hoped it would be the life-changing thing, but it wasn't. It didn't work out that way. I think you can see that show as either something that it didn't hinder. It absolutely didn't hinder. But yeah, it wasn't the fucking, we weren't able to buy houses after that or anything. Like, not in this market. But yeah, like it was just like a really cool fucking project to get to do. That's what it ended up being. And it was on a platform that exposed us to a lot more people, the fruits of which, we kind of haven't fully seen until now. Like you could argue that getting the ABC show was maybe a result of having had the Netflix show, but I think there's an alternate future where we had a show on ABC around about the same time without having gotten the Netflix show. I think that is I can see how that sort of would have happened. So maybe it contributed to it. But we announced we haven't toured overseas since COVID and since the Netflix show came out, because the plan was always do the Netflix show and then ride that wave and do a tour and hopefully sell out, because we'd had 2 tours of America before that where we'd done nothing but lose money. And anytime we'd done Edinburgh, we maybe only ever broke even or made a little bit of money. but nothing that was like, it was still always a process of breaking through, trying to break through, and never quite getting there. And then we announced the world tour a couple of weeks ago, and the US and the UK sold out in like 48 hours.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
And we're doing venues that are like, some of them are smaller, but we're doing like 1,200 seat, 1,500 seat venues. In London, we're doing like 2 shows in a 3,300 seater.
Wow.
That just sold out like fucking crazy. And all of us was gobsmacked. Like couldn't believe it. And I would say that is a direct result of the Netflix show. That is very much a result of having been given that platform and that exposure. But we hadn't felt that really. I mean, the Oz tour, we did the biggest tour of our fucking lives last year around Australia. Where we just sold incredible fucking numbers, and it was a leap. It was a leap, but because it was home and we've been doing stuff here for so long, it didn't feel like as big of a leap because we have toured in Australia. Basically, we have toured in Australia and made money before, right? Yep. But because we hadn't really toured overseas and made money before, to get that sort of result was like truly mind melting.
That's so cool. And, what I've learned on this podcast is, I've had so many hugely successful people that it happens in different ways to what we think. So someone might be the star of this pilot, and then the pilot doesn't go ahead, and they think this is going to be they've made it. And then maybe a year later, someone remembered them from the pilot and it's given them another opportunity, or they did something and it started. And it's crazy how the world works, is that everyone always thinks that the one thing that's going to like push them in the direction that they want is not often, it is it, but not in the way that we think it is.
Yeah. I think that's why you got to set your expectations really low, but you have to not let that affect how hard you work or how big you dream.
Yep.
Like that's the balance for me that I feel like I've always kind of had since drama school, which was, that thing I was talking about with America. I was just like, this will not work out. Like just knowing, just convincing myself and knowing that this is such a fucking pipe dream, and there is a 1% chance that this will happen. But I'm not going to let that stop me from really fucking going for it. Like genuinely, like properly going for it, and not letting anything get in my way. And not, that's, I think, the only way you can survive. Because if you think it's going to happen and then it doesn't, then the repercussions of that are going to affect everything that comes after it.
Yep.
You just need to be able to go, I'm going to work really, really hard for this for no result, and be okay with that. And then when you don't get a result, go, great, I wasn't expecting to anyway. Now I can confidently move on to the next thing, It's
a lesson that I just learned. And there's not a sub story. I've spoken about a little bit on the podcast, but not a lot, but I'm okay with it. I had my first to be a creator of my own TV show, and it was a development deal in the sense, but they were talking about Netflix, but who knows? And I had so much expectations. I've written a lot of scripts, but this is the one. I won a writing competition, and it doesn't matter. And I finally got given this opportunities from these producers, a very, very big actor. That's all I'll say. And I was like, there were a lot of issues that were coming on, but I had the blinkers on. I'm like, I have expectation. I'm going to get a few seasons. This is going to be on Netflix. And it kept on, as you know, can be an industry of disappointment and frustration. And I hadn't learned that, even though I've been speaking to so many people on the podcast about it. And there were just like red flag after red flag, and it slowly, the expectations dropped, and I realized it wouldn't happen. But going from having such high expectations of what I thought was an absolute mind fuck. And I'm so grateful that I learned it through in that environment where the stakes were low in a sense, because the script hasn't been seen by anyone else. So I'll be okay. But just to learn that lesson, even though it was the most stressful thing, it was so important for me to understand what you're saying about expectations, because it can impact one's life when you have such strong expectations. It has to go a certain way. Because as you know, life happens and it will never go the way that we want it to, and it might happen in a different way. So I really resonate when you talk about it. from that side in terms of expectations and not necessarily having it has to be this way.
Yeah, because you're not owed anything.
Agreed.
I'm not owed anything. I'm not owed another show. I'm not owed success. Like I'm not, you know, and if it comes, that's great. But if I don't get it, it's because I'm not owed it. You know, it's like, and it's all, if you can't appreciate sort of the process, the creative process, even if it doesn't go anywhere, then it's like, what are you doing? It's just not going to work out for you. You're just going to be upset. You're just going to be really upset for a very long time.
I agree, and luckily I snapped out of it very quickly. But it seems like going back to our earlier part in the conversation, that perhaps that you guys are, or we'll talk about you, a lot more equipped to deal with it, given, you know, the highs and lows that you had in your career as well, or even those two shows that didn't go ahead. And it sounds like you got a much stronger head. You can see it for what it is now through going through those experiences.
Yeah, I just, you know, I kind of just learned that in drama school, or like even just before that. I don't know. It's sort of that's not a thing. Thankfully for me, that was a super hard lesson to learn. It just has sort of always just been one of those things where I don't know. I don't know if it's like due to my parents being like immigrants and you know, that's just the fucking classic story of coming here with fucking nothing and all of that shit. Like, I don't know if that's always had something to do with it, or, you know, I'd even attribute it to like low self-confidence when I had, you know, just had low self-confidence for a very large portion of my life, and genuinely believing that I wasn't owed anything, you know, and then I got self-confidence, but I never lost that part of myself that was like, oh yeah, I don't actually deserve any of this. I'll get it if I work hard and the timing's right, but if not, that's all right. Hopefully something else will come. You know, like,
yeah, that's very
a mix
interesting.
of all those things.
Yeah. So within that, you know, you're human as well. Playing the game of, you know, trying to get a show. We talked about 6 years. You mentioned how there was other interest, even the interested party. You may have not known if it's going ahead. There's still a lot up in the air over the last few years. And I'm just wondering, like, you don't know if the show's actually going ahead. Like you talked about the Stan example, where you think the show's going to go ahead, but in the moment you would have liked it to go ahead. So I'm wondering how you were able to kind of process that. Is it exactly what you were saying, that you're not owed anything, and if it happens, it happens? But then there's the human side of you want it to happen as well in that moment.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's because it's not like I don't get disappointed. It's not like I don't get frustrated or upset, but it's just about, do you let that stop you from trying again? And it's just like, no, like, absolutely not. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to go, fuck this industry, and then be like, I don't know if I want to fucking work in this industry anymore. I fucking hate it. But just do that for a couple days, and then like,
good advice.
And then just realize that it's like, you're not the only person that's ever not got this thing. More people have not gotten what you want than people who have. And the fact that I've gotten any of it is a fucking blessing.
Cool.
And it's a mix of talent, hard work, dedication, timing, all that bullshit, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, all right.
Isn't it wild, you know, I don't know how many actors we've had on, and the rejection, the no's, the being rejected at least 100 times to like the one yes. And the ability, this is why I love this podcast, I love speaking to people like you, is the ability to bounce back from rejection, no matter how small or big it is. And we've given a few examples. There's obviously a lot more in your life. But despite all of that, you always come back to, like, I guess, being authentic and true to yourself and honoring yourself of where you at in that journey, and you still keep on going ahead. Doesn't mean you're not human. You're not going to like cry and sulk and get angry, but you still manage to keep on going and moving forward.
And I think it's okay to like also sort of acknowledge that getting rejected a lot is really fucking hard. And if that means you don't want to do this anymore, that doesn't mean that you've failed.
Agreed.
Because it fucking sucks. I hate this industry. I'll be completely fair. I'll be completely honest with you. I think it's like it's awful. And if I, like if I could do anything else, I genuinely would, but I don't know if I'm sort of able to, just the way that my brain is wired, and it also comes down to like mental health shit, and like it's a thing that that kind of works for me and that I've grown accustomed to, but I don't think it's good or pleasant. um it's really, 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 really hard.
Yep.
And I can very, very easily see myself in a couple of years just being like, I don't want to do this anymore because it's too hard. Like, if certain things don't work out, if certain, dreams or goals that I have don't work out, I can very much see myself just going, I'm fucking done. Like, I'm 40, I'm 45. I haven't done those things that I wanted to be able to do. I want to try something else now. And like, I'll be stoked if that happens. I'll be stoked if it works out, but I'll be stoked if I can get to a point where I'm like, nah, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. The fear for me is like getting to 50, or like getting to 45, getting to 50, and pushing, still fucking pushing for something that isn't quite happening or might take another 10 years to happen. I don't want to waste my time doing that. I would rather just go, not for me, and go be a mechanic or some shit. Like, I reckon that'd be sick.
To me, that's a success, is knowing when to stop, as long as it's one's decision.
Yeah.
And that they embrace it, then that's the success of knowing when, because we don't do everything. Like, I'm going to eventually stop playing basketball. Does that mean that it didn't succeed because I wasn't an NBA player? No, I enjoyed it. I had fun. I learned a lot. And to me, people, on the theme of failure, they think if you stop doing something, that's a failure. And to me, if it's our decision and we're empowered, then that's a success of knowing what the next direction is.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And so within that, what drives you? Because, you obviously laugh. There are times where it obviously sucks. And we've spoken about how bad the industry also here, but how bad it can be, and all of these little things which can be very strange. At the end of the day, something's kept you going. And I'd love to know what inspires you.
The fact that nothing matters, and that we are grains of sand on an endless beach. Like nothing I do matters. Nothing I do matters. In fucking 100 years, no one's gonna fucking be talking about Aunty Donna or even possibly remember what it is. Like, I don't know. So why not? Like, I realized very early on in my life that I'm just like not driven by money. I don't care about money, and I do not need a lot of money to feel safe or comfortable.
Oh, nice.
Which is all I really care about.
Yep.
I don't really care about. I don't want to be a fucking landlord, because like personally, I think that's awful. I've gotten into fights with my mum about it, because like I don't want to profit off bullshit. Like, I just want enough money to feel safe and comfortable, and I just want to have an internal sense of gratification with how I spend my time and who I spend it with. And I genuinely believe that absolutely nothing matters, which doesn't mean, and there's two ways to look at that. There's you can think that and be a serial killer, or you can think that and just be a nice person and just go about your business. And like, thankfully I feel like I'm the latter, go about my business kind, where I don't know. I just think it's all bullshit. It's like life and existence is hell, and it's completely and utterly meaningless, in my opinion.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I just don't give a shit about anything other than, like, can I be alone in the shower with my thoughts and be happy? That's like the only thing that really fucking matters, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just saw the Colosseum once. This is just in Rome. I was like backpacking around Europe, and I just saw the Colosseum, and I was like, man, that thing's so old. And like, no one that was here fucking is a thing anymore, and like we barely remember their names, and we kind of got ideas, but like whatever. It's just like, but here's this thing of it that stands, but every person that was involved in it like is gone, and no one remembers. So it's like, oh, but it all would have felt very important to them at the time. But it's like, but it's not. It's just not.
It's an interesting perspective with, I slightly differ in a sense that I think everything matters and therefore it doesn't really matter. So it's very similar to like your lines of, just trying to be a good person. And, we gave the example, and I know I'm harping on this, like you just being you has inspired one person. And I think that is so awesome. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen in 100 years with that person, but I've kind of got the mentality that we kind of live through other people, whether we recognize it's them or not. Us helping or inspiring other people, I think, lives on and makes the world a better place in a very small way. I'm not saying this chat's going to change the world, but I think it does help people in the way that we're able to, given the platform that we've got. So I think it's still important. You're not coming from a cynic point of view of where you're like, it doesn't matter, so therefore I want to murder people. You're saying it, which can be very positive, inspiring. It doesn't really matter, so just give it a go. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I see it as an extremely positive thing. I know it sounds nihilistic when you sort of just put the words on paper, but it's the thing that like made my life make sense to me, was like realizing that. I was just like, yeah, I just always come back to, it doesn't matter. It's nothing. It just doesn't fucking matter, and that's good. That's really good.
Yeah, that's nice. I like the clarification. And, from the money side, you mentioned, you got an interesting take on this. I love this. You mentioned how money's not important to you, which I think is great. And you live within your means in a sense. But you mentioned that you're doing all of these shows and that perhaps you weren't making money from them and you still kept on going ahead. And it sounded like, based on what you just said, that there were probably a lot of periods where you're doing these shows, it's going well, they're sold out, but you're not making money, yet you still decided to continue. Was the thinking there?
Because it was about the art, it was about the creativity, it was about working, like I really like to work. I refer to myself as a workhorse often. Like I really, really love to work. I need to love what I'm doing, and then I'm like the most passionate, driven person, like I'm right up there with the best of them. But if I don't like it even a little bit, I give no shit. That's a very ADHD thing. It's just like, that's how I was in high school. I didn't give a fuck about anything. So I did nothing. And then I spent 3 years out of high school kind of just fucking around and doing nothing and working in nightclubs.
Well, you're in bands as well.
I was in bands, yeah. Like just when I was a kid, just in high school and shit. It was just a sick way to spend the weekends, really, is what it kind of came down to.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what I was saying. I'm sorry, I lost track of my own shit.
No, I just think it's cool of how a lot of people doing, understandably, no judgment whatsoever, but a lot of people maybe in the creative arts doing what you've done. Money could be the number one thing, and look, there's nothing wrong with that. But you're talking about your passion and how it's all about you and your creative art, and how money's not the thing that drives you. It's like you and what you want to create.
Well, yeah, it's just about how much, like, you need to figure out how much money you need. It's different for every person.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Depending on how you're brought up and stuff. But you just need to figure out how much money you need to kind of be comfortable. And when you really get down to it, it's not a lot. And this is what I mean by like nothing matters, in the sense that like I really have a fucking thing about landlords. I really have a fucking thing about
I'm a landlord. No, I'm joking.
Well, I mean, fuck you. No, but like, this is just a personal thing, and I don't really judge anyone, not too harshly, right? But I have a thing about making a profit of a basic human need, and I think housing is one of those things, and I genuinely find it deplorable to be like investing in fucking property, and like so can spend money just to make more money and build this fucking pile of like what? Of fucking what? you know, like just sitting at the top of this thing that goes to who when you die? Maybe your fucking kids that you never spoke to because you were too hard buying more houses or some shit. Like, who gives a fuck? I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't need a lot. And the career I've picked is a career where it's always kind of unstable, right? Which I don't mind. I kind of like get off on that a little bit if I'm being very honest.
Yeah, I used to be an accountant, so I know the feeling.
Yeah, it's a bit of like the chaos agent in me where it's just like, I do complain about how unstable it can be and whatever, but I really don't know how else I don't know how else I'd live and be content unless there was a sense of like, will this happen? Won't this happen? Am I in trouble? Am I not in trouble in terms of like career and shit? I'm being very honest. There's something about that that's like exciting as fuck, as awful as it is for the mental health. um but it just is.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's I don't understand the idea of like building this like endless amount of, like, I really struggle to understand billionaires and this idea of just like more.
Yeah.
Because like if you took what those people had and you literally cut it in half, nothing would change. And I don't understand how there are certain people that don't see that and know that, like, and they're so protective of this thing,
the power.
Yeah, like I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. There's a very few things that I like can't put myself in someone else's shoes and sort of understand, even if I completely disagree with it. Like, I feel like I have the ability to do that for most people. That is one thing I genuinely struggle with understanding is the is what that gives somebody that's so important.
Yeah, it's like a completely different way of thinking, and it's almost like one's from a different planet. It's an interesting thing, but it also empowering yourself is to know that you don't need to live the high, you don't need to get planes and all of that. You can be happy with what you've got, and I think that's a really important lesson as well.
Yeah, it's just like you don't need that much, and it's nice to have nice things, but once you've got them, once you have those nice things, you don't need more of them. You don't need two planes. If you want a plane, fine. If you've worked hard and you want to buy yourself
cut it
a
at two.
plane,
yeah.
What?
No, just cut the planes at two.
Well, yeah, like just one plane's fine. One plane, one house. Like one car. That's all you need. Like I understand if you've got the money and you want to live a bit larger, I don't think there's a problem with that. It's just about, why do you need more on top of that? Like, why does it have to keep? Why does it have to keep growing? That's what I don't get. That's the bit of it that I don't understand. I understand wanting a fucking mansion. Sure, okay, excessive, but whatever. That's what you want. If you've worked for it and that's what your job affords, fine. But you don't need one in every fucking continent. Stay in an Airbnb.
It's a good thing to have on the bucket list. Yeah, gotcha. But before we go, I just wanted to ask one thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you're going on a 4-month break before off air. You told me this, and you've never had a break, and I think that's crazy because burnout is also quite prevalent when one is self-reliant on their art, for example. How is this 4-month? It's not 1 month, not 2 months, not 2 weeks. It's 4 months. Why have you decided to take a 4-month break?
Well, I thought like 4 months was a compromise. There were other people who wanted it to be longer, and I would have been fine with it being longer. I was also okay with it being, my minimum was like 3 months. I was like, just after all of this, after the the big tour that we did last year, which then went straight into writing and then straight into the production of this ABC show, which went straight into promo, which has led us up until this point.
Yeah.
It's like, after 11 years, I just need a bit of a break. And personally, and we were sort of in a position for the first time ever where we had enough money and we had enough infrastructure within the company of both Aunty Donna and Haven't You Done Well Productions, where we could step away for that period of time and it not crumble and collapse beneath us, because that's pretty much been the reason why we haven't been able to take off.
Yeah.
Is take time off.
Yeah.
Up until this point, is that it was purely a financial issue of just like, we can't afford to. We were running a small business, and that business needed what it turned out to be 11 years to get to the point.
Which is
where
crazy. 11-year break.
Well, I mean, I think that's, fuck, man. Any cafe or like restaurant or, you know, like accounting firm or like anything, I think it would be fairly comparable. I don't know a lot about small businesses, but like, I feel like a lot of small businesses would take that, you know, it takes like a decade to get to the point where you're like, finally, okay, now I can step away for a little bit. You know, that doesn't mean it's not successful or profitable up until that point, but to get to the point where you can fully, and I mean, like, we are properly, or at least I'm properly stepping away for 4 months. I'm not fucking answering emails. I'm not going on Aunty Donna's social media and doing, like, I'm doing nothing for 4 months.
And your Twitch?
Pardon?
And your Twitch and stuff, or is that more?
I don't stream anymore.
Oh, okay.
I haven't streamed for a little while. It's a nightmare.
I don't know anything about that world, but okay.
Streaming is brutal. It was for me anyway. I have a lot of dear friends who are full-time streamers, and I respect it greatly, but I just found it very difficult to be doing a job and have a life and then also stream. It was just like, there was no downtime. There was no time to just like switch off, you know, and that time has become very important to me.
Yeah.
To like get to the point where you can just, where everyone at the same time can fully step away. It took this long, and that's okay. That's fine. I'm fine with that, because I'm incredibly fucking grateful to be in a position where I have a job that I can take a 4-month break from and not worry about money or being fired or like, you know, anything like that. Like, that's such a fucked up privileged position to be in. I'm stupidly grateful for that.
Well, that's really nice. And how are you feeling about it? Is it just a time to kind of just decompress, you know, regardless of what you said, 11 years is a long time, just to kind of go back to you? Is that the...
Yeah, it's just to like, it's kind of just to do nothing, because I haven't done nothing for a long time. And I will do stuff like it's that weird thing for me where sort of like writing in particular had always been my kind of hobby, right? Like, you know, like later in high school and then outside of high school, and even while I was at drama school, I always wrote like short films or plays or fucking whatever in my spare time. Didn't matter how sort of like busy my schedule was, I always sort of like found pockets of time to do that. And then it became my job, but it didn't stop being my hobby.
Interesting. Zach spoke about when your hobby becomes your job.
Yeah. And it's like, I still write a lot outside of Donna that's got nothing to do with Donna. That stuff just for me. Like, I did a whole nother fucking sitcom at the same time.
I know. Why you like this?
Yeah. And that just started out as a fun thing to do, like on the weekends, because I like doing that. I love writing, and again, it is my main hobby. And so I'll probably spend, and I've been, you know, like this year in particular, I've been spending a lot of like weekends and weeknights like working on like another project that may or may not go fucking anywhere, but I just enjoy doing that with my spare time. I love doing that with my downtime. And so I've got a lot of downtime now, which to me just goes, I've got a whole bunch of time to focus on my hobby. Nice. Which is, again, it's a really cool position to be in, because now when I do that for my hobby, I now kind of also have the pathways and the resources and the people to then maybe turn it into a thing, which is really cool. But then
that's the dream.
Yeah. And then that's what's really cool, because then that becomes work, but it doesn't take away from that was just a hobby thing, which is why I don't care if it goes anywhere. Like, it'll be great if it does.
Oh, nice.
But if it doesn't, it doesn't matter, because that was me just doing my hobby. You know?
Oh, so it's like a win-win.
Yeah, like making a pitch deck for like a different show, or like coming up with the idea for like another sitcom or like a fucking comic book or just like an animated thing or whatever, or like writing a treatment for a movie. Doesn't matter if it doesn't go anywhere right now because it's just that is my hobby. But then I can, shift gears and go, all right, well, now I'm going to go on the work mode with that thing because I really like it. But doesn't matter if it works out.
That's epic. That's really inspiring. I like that. It's a win-win mentality no matter what. And you're doing it for you. And if something great happens, then something great happens. I'm going to use that for my projects because I'm trying to get them made, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do now to wrap up the podcast is to do a quick rapid fire segment. So the first thing that springs to mind, but these things are never rapid, so take your time.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to rumble?
Yeah, let's go.
Sort of answer this. What's your next big dream or goal?
An animated show.
I won't comment on them because I'll derail them. Very cool.
Yeah.
Who's the best comedian in Australia?
Jesus Christ. That's a lot of pressure. The best comedian in Australia. I don't know. I go to Laura Davis is the first name that comes to my mind just because
She's been on.
I just love how I mean, she's not really in Australia anymore, but
she's here for the comedy festival.
Yeah, she's here for the comedy festival. I think she lives overseas now,
Yep.
but she's just someone who has who just has a extreme honesty about themselves and is somehow able to like turn that into just the best fucking one-liners and jokes that I've ever heard in my fucking life. Also, I'm just going to add to that subsequently. I'm going to add fucking Woah Alyssa because I think Woah Alyssa are one of the most fucking.
They are hilarious.
Yeah, they know not a lot of fucking people in real life and comedy acts that make me laugh the way Woah Alyssa do.
You directed for them as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I directed their last 3 stage shows, but purely out of like a sense of I just love them so much. I just want to be involved in any way I can.
That's very cool of you. What are you most proud of?
Probably like just kind of like forging our own path. I think. I don't think we really, in terms of Aunty Donna. I mean, I would say that that's the thing. I'm kind of, in terms of my work life, that's like the thing that I'm it's kind of like the only thing I've really done.
Well, why you like this is also pretty spectacular that you got that out there as well.
Absolutely. But like, in terms of what I've spent most of my time dedicated to, so I'm insanely proud of that. But I'm not so much proud of like, where it's gotten to, as much as I am how it got there.
The journey.
Yeah, which was just like, we never we weren't a group that was like, let's look at what the algorithm is rewarding right now and make shit for that, or what's a hot topic right now, and we never tried to manipulate anything to make it equate to success. We've always been driven by art. We've always been driven by the creative, and I'm just really proud that the people I met and the first thing that I tried was with people who understood that as well and wanted that as well and wanted to go down that path as well. Always. That was never an issue. It was never an argument. And we've somehow been able to turn that into our full-time jobs. And that is like,
epic.
That's crazy to me. That's like, I'm so fucking proud of that.
Nice. What would you do if you knew you could not fail?
Pardon?
What would you do if you knew you could not fail?
I jump out of an airplane
with the parachute on.
Well, I mean, I can't fail, so it doesn't matter.
And in terms of what's within this realm?
Within this realm?
Yes.
Like this earthly realm?
This earthly realm, because you can't fly.
Well, no, but like maybe I just land. I don't want to fly and jump out of a plane just land.
Okay, something that would...
Because I'm scared of heights, so...
Oh, are you? So am I. I've also jumped out of a plane.
Well, I'd never fucking do it because I'm too scared of...
If I can do it, you can do it.
No. I will not do it. I'm not scared of dying. I don't really care about dying. That doesn't bother me. That's not a thing that drives me, right? I don't give a fuck. If I fucking died tomorrow, I'd die so happily. I've done so much. I'm like stoked with the shit I've gotten to do. But I don't want I don't want to jump out of a fucking plane because I think it's stupid. Not to say that it was stupid for having done it. I just think
You're
it's
calling
a
me stupid,
stupid
bro?
thing to do. But if I knew unequivocally that I couldn't fail at doing that and like nothing would go wrong, I'd be like, yeah, fuck it.
Okay, that is a great answer, and I'm glad that we had some positive disagreement. If I can jump out of a plane, you can do it. That's it. Moving on
right.
to the next
I
question.
disagree, but all right.
Seriously, I'm scared of heights. And it's something that you can use the rest of your life to be like, hey, have you jumped out of a plane? Comes up all the time because
Yeah,
of
and I
me.
just go no, and I don't want to, and therefore I won't.
Okay, well, next time we chat, that better have been done. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
I like I don't know, like fucking why not? Like it's genuinely like what like where does the fear come from? Where does the fear come from? Like what is it? If it's like my thing with a plane and it's just the fear of like I don't that's not how I want to die. I don't want to die by a choice that I made for something that I think would be cool and then it turns out that it's death. I'm fine to die in a plane crash, but I'm not fine to if I choose to jump out of that plane willingly.
Yeah.
Like you know like well what is it that's I've always wanted to learn the drums and but I'm not good at like keeping to a schedule, so like going to like lessons and stuff, that's really it's just hard for me. I'm just not good at it. And but I was always just like scared to like ever pick up some sticks and give it a go because I was like I'll be shit. And then lockdown happened and I had time, so I was just like, meh, bought a drum kit,
That's
just started
cool.
playing every day, just like taught myself, just like went on YouTube and just watched, people. This is just like every song you can imagine. There's some fucking drum nerd who's broken it down and can teach you. And so I just started doing it and like now it's sick and I just play like every day and I love it. And I've gotten like way better. I'm not good, but I've gotten like way, way better than I was. And I'd always wanted to learn an instrument. And I guess the thing that stopped me from doing it was like, oh, one, I don't have the time, but two, I was just like, I don't want to be shit at something. And now it's sick. I'm shit at something, but it's just for me. So like,
That's amazing.
just do it. I guess that's the thing. Do it just for you. Like if it's new, just do it for you. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell your partner. Don't tell your fucking mum or your dad. Don't tell anyone. Just go to the pottery class, or just like, or just do it. Just do it and just do it for you, and don't fucking tell anyone about it. And then I guarantee you, if you keep doing it, you'll probably build up enough confidence that you'll get to the point where you're comfortable showing people.
Brilliant. That's amazing.
That took a little while to get there.
No. Seriously, when you do your like TED talks, your inspirational talks, that will be the first thing that's plugged. Last question before we go. What is the one question I should have asked you? And I'll ask afterwards about your show and how people can check it out and your socials. I worded that so badly. Do you want me to say that again?
What's the one question you should have asked me?
Yeah.
In regards to what?
Just in this whole chat.
This whole chat.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You covered it pretty good. Maybe you should have asked me to play something on the drums.
Are your drums there?
Yeah, I'm not going to do that though. I'm not wearing any pants. But had you asked, it would have been funny because I could have said no, I'm not going to do that, and also I'm not wearing any pants. So I'm not going to stand up because otherwise you'll see me in my underwear.
That is, I used to do that when I was going for my accounting grad jobs. And I think now they say, like, can you just point up to see if you can stand up? My brother got it. It's smart. So anyway, can you point up and just show me where? Oh, don't worry. Is there any question that I should have asked you? Anything you wanted to wrap up the podcast before I ask how people can follow you, keep up to date with you and all of that stuff?
No, not really. I think I mean, maybe just like, the existence of Aunty Donna's Coffee Cafe, which is our show on ABC, and you can watch it on ABC iView Wednesday nights, 9:00 on ABC for the next couple of weeks.
And the people that don't live in Australia, how do they watch that?
But get a VPN.
Okay.
For the moment, that's the best thing you can do. um, I think like it's crazy that something that, I mean, I think anyway, that something that weird is on TV in the current landscape. There was a time when something this weird on TV was fine and normal, and I think that's kind of gone away a little bit. And so, like, there's a part of me that's like, even if you don't like us, right? Even if you don't like the show, just like support it, because if this is successful, it's not just about direct success for Aunty Donna. I think we're at a point where if we can prove that like niche weird stuff can exist on a platform like ABC iView and do good numbers and get people excited, that gives more like other people outside of the ABC and inside of the ABC to make more weird stuff.
Yeah, great.
And that's what I want this show to be more than anything, is like, and you never know, that is like pipe dreamy and like, you know, maybe a bit egotistical.
No, I don't
like,
think so.
I want this show to be the start of something more, but that is genuinely what I want. I don't just want a season 2 of the Aunty Donna show. I want the season 2 of Aunty Donna show, and then also like a season 1 of the fucking Sam Campbell fucked hour. You know, like, you know, like that.
Yeah.
You know, like, and there be the audience for that, and there be the confidence to make more of that kind of stuff here, because we feel very lucky given what is popular right now and what is happening to TV and how it's in this weird like limbo streaming weird place, that something like this got made. And if we can prove that it works, then I think it'll lead to more interesting, diverse stuff.
Agreed. It helps me. And, you know, networks generally come from fear of what's worked before, and they don't like to go. Australia's a very small market. I know you know all of this, but just to let everyone else know, small market, they want to, inverted commas, play it safe, but, you know, everyone's weird. Everyone's got this style. So yours is already a success, but if it becomes more of the success of how you envision it, it actually helps the whole landscape of networks being able to take risks, or at least have conversations with niche or different types of people. So I think it's a great message as well.
Yeah. It's like someone's pitching a show in a couple of years and they're like, it's fucking Coffee Cafe meets whatever else. And then that makes an Australian network exec go, oh, okay, I get it. And that worked. You know, like that's the dream. That's genuinely the dream for me, is like.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Before we go, how can people follow you and keep up to date with you?
If you just search Aunty Donna on Google, you should be sweet. Just don't buy any tickets from Via Go for our live tour.
Why are they scams? Or?
Yeah, Via Go full of shit. And often when we're, you know, selling tickets and you search it, because they pay for Google ads, that's like the first option that comes up. But they're basically a ticket scam site, and they sell tickets for like, you know, 3, 4, 5 times the amount that they're originally sold for. They're the fucking devil. But just search Aunty Donna and all our bullshit will come up. And
you personally, I know you've got a very interesting Instagram
don't
page.
Look me up. I got nothing. I have nothing to offer. I hate social media, so I try not to do much.
Okay, we'll put all the Aunty Donna links in the episode notes below. Thank you for the extra time, and I love you're very empowering guy. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it.
I really like Mark's take on investing in yourself and giving it a go mentality. Often when we dream or aspire to achieve something, we can let the doubts come in. Mark encourages us to take a step back and remind ourselves that usually the stakes are so low, it is us that builds these stakes and makes them much bigger than they really are. He empowers us to go for it and highlights how the rewards are plentiful or much larger than not giving it a go. Even if the goal or dream doesn't go our way, it is the process or the journey that is rewarding in itself. Not many people can simply say they tried and gave it a go. That in itself is liberating. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. Never give up on something you can't go a day without thinking about. Winston Churchill. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.